Hello and welcome to the ThreeWill podcast. This is your host, Danny Ryan, and I have Tommy Ryan here with me. How's it going, Tommy?
It's going well. Good morning, Danny.
Good morning. How's 2017 treating you?
The Clemson Tigers are national champions. Treating me well. Treating me real well.
That's right. That's right. And you mentioned earlier you got Austin socks on. Let me see them.
There you go.
Oh, some alien action. Well done. And what's that? Looks like a blood red moon.
Yeah.
Very nice. And I'm wearing some socks that I got for Christmas as well.
Okay, a little plaid.
A little plaid action. A little red and black. Don't call them UGA socks. I got them from Amy, so they are probably UGA themed. But
that's right.
So let's pick up the conversation from last time, and we're talking about the ThreeWill brand promise. And the first thing that we talked about was control. Everybody loves control. Always good to make sure that the client maintains control of the project as things progress, and I thought it was a great conversation. This week, what I'd like to talk about is choice. So we're on the second of the 3 C's here, and what we have for website copy is, because we deliver working software every 2 weeks, we earn our clients business every 2 weeks. So that's maybe an interesting concept that sort of ties itself to Scrum, which is we have these 2-week sprints and we're delivering software every 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, and that plays into the control aspect, but also as you look at choice, allows us to reset commitments every 2 weeks within the framework of what the project is trying to accomplish.
Now, I remember from my Pricewaterhouse days, or PricewaterhouseCoopers, I guess it's called nowadays, we used to do, projects that lasted years. Mm-hmm. And so this whole concept of we're going for every 2 weeks, you're delivering software. And I guess what's often happens on projects is at the end of that 2 weeks, we may have like what do they call, like a ramp down sprint or a transition sprint after that. But we do get to the point where we're delivering working software, which is a pretty novel concept.
Right, yeah. We've had some customers where we'll alternate a sprint that builds functionality that's proven and tested, and then a release sprint to get it out to production. Or that might be also going to a UAT environment where there's more involved in that deployment cycle. It's not something you can do in a matter of, hours to a day. It takes several days to kind of go through the full cycle. So we found that as an interesting pattern.
And I know from working with Bruce and some of the smaller projects we do, we reduce the time of a sprint to a week. So I've seen that happen as well, and that's pretty amazing that we're turning things around that quickly.
Yeah, especially if it's not involving a lot of code and it's more configuration based. Mm-hmm. Also, if it's a very small project where if it's a 4-week project, 3-week project, you want to have enough inspection cycles to adjust before the final touchdown of the project.
Now, what I like about choice is it sort of has the underlying, brings us back to our original tagline, which was choose to succeed, and reminds us of our value of free will, which is, you always have a choice that you can make, which I like that's a reminder to all of us.
Yeah, it is. And I think probably what we think is one of the more important aspects of what we do with our customers. And it starts from the beginning of the sales cycle all the way to the end. And so when we're proposing work to a customer, we're looking at a backlog where we show options that they can choose from. We try to make each of the backlog items as independent as possible, so it's more of a shopping cart and allows them to pick what is the most optimal set of features against a budget and a timeline to accomplish the goal that they're going after.
Mm-hmm. I know one of the things that you and I have always, with consulting, it's sort of you want to make sure that you're delivering for a client and doing things that are really valuable. But some consulting firms have the philosophy of let's get in and never leave, and make ourselves indispensable so that they're constantly coming back to us. Walking that fine line versus building a partnership where you are doing things over multiple years. I know with the stuff that we've been doing with sustainment recently, we have been doing things where we're setting up the structure where we're not doing something and walking away from it.
Yeah, there's two aspects to that. One is our road mapping, where we give vision, over time of what can be accomplished, and as a part of that roadmap, a lot of times you see sustainment in there. And then the sustainment is trying to go in a lightweight way, a predictable way that's, in a sense, low cost versus trying to keep a full team in place. It's more of a fractional team member that they feel that the knowledge is not lost when we leave, and we can be there to support them along the way, as much help as they want.
I know with some of the migration projects that we do, like with the Jive to SharePoint, we're giving them, that they're not feeling like they're locked into Jive, or with the multi-tenant, with the dedicated to multi-tenant, they're feeling like they're not locked in, that they have a choice. I think that sort of, when we look at things, we do a lot of stuff Microsoft, so you have to sort of decide on what you're focusing in on and what you're great at. But I think underlying to some of those projects is giving a client a choice to go in a different direction and not, making them feel locked into something.
Yeah, so I think you're saying the migration practice that we have is allowing people to make a choice to go either to a new version of SharePoint or go from Jive to SharePoint. Just happens to be something that allows people to move forward and not feel stuck in a sense.
Great. Anything else with choice at all that you'd like to add, Tommy?
Well, I think it really goes throughout the project that we want to have enough interaction with our customers to allow them to understand the decisions that are made and how that impacts the success of the project or what gets accomplished. And so that has to be done through a relationship where we're closely working with our customers and understanding what's important to them, so we can get them involved when they need to make choices and allow them to make choices at the right time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can get into the rut of, just trying to get the project done and not surfacing up and recognizing this is the point where the customer needs to make a choice because they have choices now versus if I wait later, then there's less choices to be made. You're almost kind of forced down a path, and that's a hard balance. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I've got to get the project done. I've got to go heads down and make it happen, and we need that spirit, but also it has to be in balance with when do I need to get the customer involved so they can make the right choices at the right time. There's an art to that, I think. You can't necessarily engineer it into the project where it's automatic. I think there's a bit that comes with experience and understanding who your customer is and when is the right time to get that type of customer involved in the process. So I'm not, I might be a little bit vague here, but I think it's just trying to say that choice comes through a commitment to caring about giving your customer a choice, because I think you can remove choices to make your life simpler and in a sense maybe even get more dollars out of the project, but we're always looking to have the largest impact, the most value at the end of the project, and that comes from consciously thinking about when does our customer need to make a choice, and for us to give them those options, make it easy, where we provide that three paths that they could take and understanding the impacts of those paths, so they feel like yes, ThreeWill didn't put me in a position where I was stuck. All along the way, they brought me into the process to make the right choices.
I think this is a great point. A lot of it's when talking with folks initially, I often find out that they really want to have an option A, B, and C, and you're almost, if you have too many choices, it cripples them if you only have one choice, you're not really letting them make the decision. So often we come back with three, you have these three options to choose from, and there can be variants of those options, but it really helps them to make the decision if you can come back to them with a handful of options to choose from.
Yeah. I think our environment, we talk about coming to the table with solutions, not problems, and so coming to the table with options that we've thought about that allow the customer to make a decision quicker, make an informed decision, and doing it at the right time, so we optimize the impact of the project.
I've seen, and this is through the years, some of the best ways of earning trust from either a prospect or a client, which is if we really want them to make the right decision, sometimes we come to a conclusion where we're not the ones implementing it, or there's another solution that's out there that really is the right choice for them, but we're not the ones who are doing it. And I think that earns a lot of trust if somebody sees that there's a project that we could go after, but it's really not the right choice, and we're not recommending that. I've had people come back. I remember there was one client where we said it came down to an area that we didn't have expertise, and I didn't think we were the right person to go do that. And many years later they came back and they still remember that we did that we were really trying to figure out what was best for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that the whole trust thing is what is the fuel for having a high impact project, and through decisions that are made along the way, where we're showing them that we have their interest in mind, and this is kind of speaking to commitment and caring, which I think we'll talk about next time. Mm-hmm. Is that really allows us to go faster. At the end of the day, I think we always want to go faster, and that can't happen unless there's trust. And the whole choice thing of where we bring up things at the right time that the customer feels like we care and we have it under control, which is what we started with, allows them to build up their trust with us. And when we have clients that have high trust, and that comes over time, that ends up being the clients that we have, probably the highest value, where we can get more done because we know how to kind of act on their behalf, and they trust that we're going to make good decisions along the way and bring them in when they need to make the right decisions.
So we're giving them three choices to choose from. Mm-hmm. We're helping them make that right decision for them, and then finally next week we'll talk about commitment, which is, all right, now we've decided what we're going to do. Now we have to go deliver this, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's got to get done.
It's got to get done. And am I working with the right partner to go get this done? And let's talk next week about commitment. Thank you, Tommy, for taking the time to do this.
Sure, Danny.
Thank you, everyone, for you taking the time to listen to this. And please drop by the ThreeWill.com site. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment on this. Thank you so much for listening to this, and have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.